How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Blue Shifting and welcome to Chaoschild. With a very disturbing intro with crying children. I guess I shouldn't be that surprised, but weird. So yeah, this is coming on the heels of Chaos Head, and it also is on the heels of a poll that was by the community. There was some drama with that, unfortunately, and it's gonna, I might have to change some things in the future because that was very unfortunate to have to go through, but best we can manage. This was the fairest result we could get, and I'm excited to play it. I think it's gonna be really fun. This one has a lot of hype about it. There's a lot of people who are very interested in it, and I gotta admit, gosh, stop! Don't do that. I was trying to play an intro trailer again. I'm very excited to see where the story goes from here and how it's gonna follow up on the stuff that was in Chaos Head, because it feels very. I felt like Chaos Head had a very definitive end, really. I mean, we don't see what happens to the characters post the disaster in Shibuya, but at the same time, it felt like there wasn't much else left to talk about, so it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do with it. But already the game looks pretty good, pretty clean. Very excited. I think this is going to be a very fun adventure, but most importantly, just keep in mind, if you're watching this for the first time, you're new to the channel, welcome. This is the Blue Shifting. I played Chaos Head not too long ago. Stop doing that. But I would also strongly recommend, if you're watching this and you've never seen Chaos Head or played Chaos Head and you've never heard of or don't know much about chaoschild, I'd recommend you play the first game or watch the first game first and then come here. Also, if you haven't played this game before, I would still recommend you play it on your own first, get your own kind of impressions, and then join me through my playthrough, and you can kind of compare notes with me and kind of see what you think. But you do you, whatever you want. I hopefully can just make it entertaining and interesting. I'm going to be doing my thing where I do my rants and talk about the characters and setting. I'm not the kind of person to try and twist things around or make a narrative try and bend to the will of bits. I just kind of enjoy the story. Stop doing that. I'm going to click over to the menu. Okay, so now we're on the menu. Should be fine now. I also installed the patch for this as a fan translation patch. It just kind of helps clarify some stuff. I guess the rumors were, based on the patch notes, that they think or they suspect that at the time when it was being localized, that maybe there was a lot of pressure to do it quickly. Maybe it was done by people who had no context to the first game. So I guess some of the moments don't have like the right punch, or like the phrasing is kind of off for what was probably intended, and so the fan translations kind of get together and they put it together, and it's been highly recommended. So like, I'm sure it's done a lot of good improvements. If you have any concerns, or if you think it's that like the patch hasn't been applied or properly or something, just let me know. But everything I see on my end says it's all installed and all set. So I'm pretty excited. There's not much else I can say here except for let's jump right in and see how it goes. Buckle up. I'm sure it'll be an adventure. I'm also gonna go make sure the settings are okay, but like so far everything looks all right, so I'll get that all squared away and we'll jump right in. November 6th, 2009 AD, 10:28 p.m. Okay. 2009. It came without warning. 2009. I'm pretty sure Steins Gate happens in 2011, right? But of course that's like a whole different thing, I think. Okay. Oh, that's the dome. Okay. So this is the melt, the third melt. That's when the event happened. That's kind of cool to see it from the air, like see a perspective of like what was happening there. It was a magnitude 7.8 earthquake with an epicenter directly under the city. The disaster reduced one of Tokyo's busiest downtown areas to nothing in a single night. So this is like a post-crisis. Yeah, because that's the thing, like no matter what ending you got, this crisis happened. The high-rise buildings that had birthed from so many trends and fads collapsed, as if giving up on their roles in society. The black fire spread throughout the city. As individuals fell into the grip of the crowd's psychology, the terror was magnified. Combined, all these things took many lives. The final death toll was 3,851. The final number of injured, 30,927. That's crazy. Those are like declared war numbers. Like the September 11th attacks had less death toll than that. That's crazy. Like that's such a huge number to even imagine. And what's crazy too is it's also like, again, this crisis was a man-made one, but most people wouldn't know that. Like that's one of the big differences. Is like this was something that was intentionally done by people. People who wanted to harm people, people who wanted to enact their will in the world. But because they could brush this one off as an earthquake, I don't think people are going to see it that way. And because normal disasters like a massive earthquake, they're facts of nature. You can't do much but try and prepare for them in advance. And so by being able to call it an earthquake, it's going to end up dismissing and invalidating a lot of things here. And a lot of people, even though like we know Taku, was able to go and kind of fight back and try and prevent the Noah 2 device. Maybe he couldn't stop it from like activating like he did, but like maybe prevent it from being abused in the future. And he stopped the guy who was like in charge of it. It still sucks that like people intentionally made this happen. That's scary. This event would later be known as the Shibuya earthquake. Look at that. Even in all the destruction, people still suffered the most in their hearts. Some who had lost family came together to share a new resolve, while others who had been forced to watch their friends die were driven to guilt to take their own lives. Dang. As a baby was miraculously reunited with its parents after 72 hours, a child in an evacuation shelter asked her dad, "Where's mommy coming home?" And he had no answer. So it's supposed to be juxtaposition of the two, like a baby that had no, through circumstance was in a situation that they shouldn't have been able to survive after like 72 hours, like 3 days of being alone. And then in a shelter, like a dad has to confront the horror of like not only losing his spouse, but having to explain to his young child what happened. Some of the wounded made it to hospitals by looking at real-time updates on the web. Others saw people on the internet talking about the disaster as if it were a movie and were driven mad. A homeless man was saved from malnutrition by an organized volunteer group. But at the same time, a middle school boy punched a self-centered volunteer who had come to Shibuya to find himself in the face. It was the first time in that boy's life he'd ever been violent. The psychological toll was incredible, and many of the survivors would later manifest symptoms similar to those associated with PTSD. The young were hit the hardest, and before long, the cause of those symptoms was given a name: chaoschild syndrome. Okay, that's kind of cool. So, in this case, like I thought chaoschild was gonna be literal, like children, maybe children of the protagonist of the first game or something. But no, it's like this idea that chaoschild is a syndrome of people who have adverse reactions and effects from this disaster in particular. Rebuilding happened at a feverish pitch never seen before. It felt inappropriate to say hang in there, but people felt that somebody had to do something. Oh, this site looks really kind of interesting. Like, I know it's based on actual like Shibuya, so it's probably based on a real place, but like when I see this for some reason, it reminds me of Steins Gate Zero when we get a glimpse into the post time machine World War III Tokyo area, and like how, because I think Okabe had to walk through one of these canals to try and avoid the streets where battles were raging. So it just made me think of that. I'm just probably reminiscing though. The new slogan was Shibuya, a city reborn, and no amount of money or manpower was spared in aiding the endeavor. The whole town was in the grip of fear. Grip of a fever, not a fear. In private, a leader of the redevelopment effort said, "This may sound unkind, but this frenzy feels like a town burying its grief by holding a festival." Building codes were rigorously evaluated with an eye toward earthquake engineering. Perhaps in an effort to emphasize the city's safety, security cameras were put up all over town. Shibuya would become a place where everyone could live in peace. However, but at the same time, a rumor began to spread about the earthquake. Something about this earthquake doesn't make sense. Oh, yeah, that's true, because like a lot of people are gonna make sense. Is it gonna be how like it was so centralized, where like the damage from an earthquake usually can shake like an entire section of the country, but it was just Shibuya? There were no aftershocks, and the damage is spread in a strange way. Harajuku and Ibisu, all areas only a kilometer away from Shibuya, suffered few casualties and even fewer collapsed buildings. So it's almost like the earthquake was much, much minor, just a kilometer away, which is, that would be insane. Like, how could you see that and not be, like, confused? It's also interesting, though, because, like, I've only experienced, like, noticeable earthquake twice in my life. I just haven't lived in very active areas. And both the times, like the biggest one I think was a 4.4, but I was pretty far from the epicenter, like by several hundred miles, so I didn't even like feel that bad. It just was very like, you know, the ground is shaking and it sounded like a train traveling underneath the house. Like the sound, like if you've ever been near a train when the train goes by, like there's like the rumbling and like the loudness of the sound. It was like that was going right beneath the floor. But I never experienced any aftershocks. I've never felt the whole like, oh, here's an earthquake and then, oh, there's aftershock, here's an aftershock. At least not a noticeable one. This damage pattern had never been observed in any prior earthquake, and so more than a few pundits claimed the Shibuya earthquake must have been artificial. I mean, they weren't wrong. More than anything, some of the survivors all said the same thing. I saw a white light. Yeah. I heard a sound like a ringing in my ears. Too many people experienced this for anyone to laugh it off, but no cause of the phenomenon was ever found. It was just more evidence that those who believed that something about the earthquake had been wrong. I mean, it's true. Then 6 years after the strange earthquake in 2015. Oh, okay, is that when this takes place? It's 6 years after. Okay, so that would mean Taku and, like, Remy and the other characters would be, I mean, if they're in high school, they'd probably be like 22, 24. Yeah, they'd be 22, 24 probably. Like, I wonder if we're going to see them in this story or if this is going to be really detached. Because, like, with Steins Gate and Steins Gate 0 was literally the same people. So, is this story going to follow them or see them at all? Or is it going to be something along the lines of, like, they've moved on. This is now a completely new cast, but it's going to share themes with the first game. That'll be interesting to see. Because, like, that's what, I haven't played any Persona besides 5, but I understand that, like, each Persona game is like that, where it's built off of similar premises, like the idea of the metaverse and Personas, but each cast group is completely isolated from previous groups, that they are independent stories that you can enjoy. You could play 5 and have that be your first Persona game, and you're not like really missing out on anything except for maybe little Easter eggs or maybe little like commonalities between them. Whereas with Steins Gate, if you play Steins Gate 0, it would make literally no sense. So I wonder if this is going to be on one side or the other. Something else was about to attract attention in the region, in the reborn city of Shibuya. Okay. All right, so here we go. Ooh. Chaoschild. If you were God and your delusions could become reality, what delusion would you wish for? A sensual world, a despotic society, destructive sanctions? That tagline seems like very similar to the one in the first game. September 7th, 2015, Sunday night. So September 7th. Okay.
はい。ではいつも通り3分くらい募集をかけるんで適当によろです。
Okay. The second he spoke, the comment box started to fill. Otani Yuma watched it for a few seconds. Then he saw the request. When does Haru-chan tell us she's dating somebody? He smiled to himself. Oh, who's this guy? Just what he wanted. Most of the requests were about hot actors or cute idols. His audience was so stupid, it was so easy to tell exactly what they were going to ask. Look at this dude. The problem was always whether the name that came up was somebody he knew. That was the question of luck and how popular they were. But Haru-chan, her full name was Haruko something or other, she was fine. Just a few days ago, he'd forced himself to go to an event he'd rather have skipped, and he's seen it for himself.
Yes.
Satisfied, Otani got up to get some snacks, like he always did. He lived in a one-bedroom condo located 8 minutes from Shibuya Station. Cost 150,000 yen per month. Woo! Now, obviously, conversion with yen and the fact that it's, like, this is in 2015, which, you know, is 10 years ago. Oh my gosh, that's 10 years ago. That's wild. That's genuinely wild. Anyway, usually, at least for a while now, like, the conversion rate's been roughly, like, reduce it, like move the decimal point 2 spots, or like divide it by 100. Not divide it by 100, but like multiply it by 1 point, 0.01, and that gives you like a rough translation. If that's about right, that means this apartment costs $1,500 like US dollars per month, which is funny because like that feels expensive, but nowadays that's actually a pretty decent like rate, especially if you're somewhere like Tokyo / Shibuya of all places. That sounds like ridiculously affordable, and that's depressing because like I think it's meant to sound like it's expensive. It had been built after the earthquake, so the furnishings and the layout were modern. It is a small apartment though, so maybe like for the size it still is kind of pricey. A little more room would have been nice, but compared to the 40,000 yen per month place he lived in last year was heaven. So that was like dirt cheap, like $400 a month.
来年にはもうちょっと便利なところに引っ越すか。
I think $400 a month is roughly what I was paying for my apartment at college. Of course, I had 6 roommates. At 21 years old, Otani felt satisfied for the first time in his life. In 4th grade, he'd gotten into online gaming and stopped going to school. Oh gosh. Eventually, he stopped leaving his room altogether. Ugh. Then he'd gotten addicted to drugs, and that made him sleepy, but then nothing else. Oh man, so he got into like that's gotta be crap, what are they called? Like Oxycontin. Well, I know there's a term for them. I should know it, but it's it's like the heavy pain and sleeping medications, the stuff that's definitely prescribed. But like we have a opioid, not opioid. Opioid. Oh no, it is opioids. Yeah, it's probably just opioids. Once seeing only darkness in his future, he'd planned to commit suicide. In the chaos after the earthquake 6 years ago, he'd finally managed to leave his room, but the family had already given up on him. After he failed his entrance exams, he went to live on his own in Shibuya, and he hadn't spoken to his parents since. Dang. As far as they knew, he'd failed the exams 3 times in a row. In fact, he hadn't even gone to the test after the first time. There wasn't anything he wanted to learn in college or any companies he wanted to work for badly enough. He had no goal in life at all. But things were different now.
アットちゃんにもたまには本当のことが書かれてるもんだ。
Yeah.
チーズでいいか。
At channel, back again. He took a block of cheap cheese he'd bought at the supermarket out of the fridge. Usually, he never ate anything this cheap. But on Nico Neon live streaming, it wasn't just what you said, it's how you looked when you said it also mattered. Nico Neon live streaming. The live streaming service offered by Nico Neon Video, also known as Neon Live. Just like normal Nico Neon videos, viewers can embed comments into the videos itself. The streamer can see what the viewers are saying in real time. Nico Neon offers official live streams as well, as while they used to be dedicated to various subcultures back when the site was first founded, they've recently branched onto subjects such as news, sports, politics, and economics. Also, you're gonna notice something here. I have these acquired, and we weren't in new, we were in all and acquired. Yeah, so I have to make a confession here, unfortunately. When I first started this, I was doing a first time full-on reaction and realized partway through that my capture was still doing what I did for the live stream, and it was cycling through images. So all the audio was captured, but none of the video was captured. So unfortunately, we're going to have to like reread some of the stuff. And I'll jump over to the tips list if it's something that's like specific to this, but unfortunately, I can't be as genuine as I would be normally. I'm really, really sorry. That's unfortunate because like I love being able to do these blind reactions, and I had a really good time. And so I'm actually a little, I'm frustrated that like that happened, but I can't do anything else. Oh wait, I just noticed like here the formula on this wall. There's the picture obviously, but the wall. It's fun to the 10th times intelligence to the 40 equals IR2. That's like from the first game. That's fun. So yeah, I apologize. I wish I could be. I wish it wasn't like. I wish that hadn't happened. It really sucks because it's like I can't just go back and recreate it. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna give you my thoughts and reflections though, and kind of share my like what I was thinking about the time. And I'm also like noticing new things too, so it's not as bad, but it still sucks. Anyway, Otani wasn't a good-looking man, let alone a cute girl. Okay, he was just a plain old guy, so he tried to keep his program popular. He needed to make them think he was poor, barely managing to scrape by, in fact. I can't imagine that would work. Like, if I just was really poor, would I be more popular on YouTube? I don't think so. But maybe it's like to garner sympathy. That's why, oh, dude, that reminds me, actually. Wasn't there a guy who was streaming for a while, and he was in a wheelchair, and, like, he was getting popular, and then he had a thing where he went to go, and he, like, forgot to turn off his camera, and he stood up and got out of the wheelchair and walked off camera, and, like, people were, like, it ruined him because he was, like, faking to get, like this, to be more sympathetic. God, that almost makes you wonder how many people do that kind of crap. That's why he kept the area on his PC and the parts of his apartment that you could see with his webcam completely plain. Last month, he'd finally reached his goal of 4,000 viewers, which is pretty good. I mean, this is like Twitch, basically. It's a live streaming platform. 4,000 viewers is really good for like a single time. Like, I don't even get like 4,000 views on most videos. And like, well, not even close to that. I don't even have 4,000 subscribers. I don't know what I'm talking about. But you can see like live viewers are much harder to cultivate than views on a video when people can watch at their leisure. For a man with nothing going for him like Otani, it was extremely unusual. 3 months ago, he'd guessed the winners of a popularity contest a certain idol group was holding, as well as their total number of votes. That must have really paid off. So how did he like guess that exactly? After that, his number had been going up steadily. Late last month, when his streams had appeared at the top of Nikkyonan Video's page, so at the front page of Twitch, he'd seen a huge increase. Right now, he'd gotten above 4,500, and it was quite possible he'd break 5,000 by the end of the month. It was around late last year he started to wonder about his power. So he does have something. So he's probably a gigalomaniac. It was a certain rumor on one of the channel's occult boards that made him really start to realize what he had. The name he'd chosen for his stream subtly reflected this. TIL, I can see the future. Today I learned I can see the future. That's what TIL must stand for. He took out his knife to cut the cheese. There's a strange sound.
Huh?
He thought he'd just imagined it when... Knock, 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 knock. He heard it again. It was coming from the door. Someone was clearly knocking on his door.
Huh? Mitsurin ka?
Jungle, maybe? What? Jungle? Suspicious, he walked towards the door and answered and checked the clock. Oh, right. I that's a tip I need to look at. Because, yeah. Jungle. Yeah. Jungle, an American online shopping site that's the largest in the world. It sells books, appliances, food, clothes, and more. Anything you can imagine is on sale there. It said that 1 in 5 internet users have purchased something from it. It's the standard for Amazon. And I said it like last time I was saying, like that number of 1 out of 5 has got to be like 4 out of 5, if not 100% at this point. Like everyone uses it. It was 11:41 p.m. Not exactly normal delivery hours.
なんだよ。つか、生放送中だっつうの。
He tried to ignore it, but the knocking continued. It was the same rhythm at the same pace. As if the visitor's goal wasn't to come inside, but simply to make that sound. Oh, sorry. Otani felt a bit creeped out. He decided to go to the intercom camera and see who it was, but then realized that would be pointless. Only the auto-locking doors on the first floor had a camera. The door at Otani's room was on the 5th floor, had an intercom, but no camera. Otani gave up.
くそ。つか、用ならインターホン押せよ。
There it goes again.
酔っ払いか?
No, the knocks were too steady for that. And there was no voice yelling at him to open up. He'd seen the door a million times, but suddenly it looks different somehow. It somehow looked different. Good grief. Someone he didn't know was on the other side of the wall, demanding entry, in the middle of the night. Somehow, this made the door seem intimidating. Otani thought he might look through the peephole to see who was outside. He was then disgusted to find himself too scared to even get close to the door. Wait, the intercom didn't have a camera, but it did have a microphone. He turned toward the living room so he could use the intercom and find out what they wanted. Otan-san, it's me. Sorry to come by so suddenly. Interesting. It's me. He stepped in where he heard that voice. He stopped when he heard the voice. It's me. Sorry to bother you when it's this late. So is it someone he knows? That's the question. Otani tried to remember who the speaker was, but found he couldn't. But from the tone of the voice and the words, they probably weren't a weirdo. When they said, I'm sorry, they sounded like they really meant it. Okay, so this made me reflect immediately. I'm like, okay, this sounds a lot like Rimi's ability when she walked into the school and she was able to overwrite people's memories by giving them a delusion that like, oh, of course I belong here. I'm a student. I've always been here. Most of you know me. Like maybe that's what's happening here is they're impressing on him, like, thoughts, or this person's like a delusion's being impressed upon him like that. Utani sighed softly with relief, then realized he was still carrying the knife that had been used to cut the cheese. It suddenly felt stupid to feel so nervous, he quickly laid the knife on top of the sink.
はいはい、今開けます。どちら様ですか?
It's me, don't you remember? Yeah, this big white screen too. The voice simply repeated itself. But who are you? Otani whispered to himself as he opened the door. Who is it? Otani narrowed his eyebrows at the people standing there. He looked them up and down, and he looked at their faces again. Their eyes met. So it's like a group of people too. That's really odd.
あんたら、どこのどなた?
Who are you guys? So he doesn't know them. Red, blue, and green lights. Otani suddenly felt a piercing headache. Otani closed his eyes and put his right hand up to his temple. Yeah, this feels a lot like delusional implanting of like a mind, like some kind of like override. He could feel blood pounding in his veins through his fingers. He staggered, quickly put his other hand against the wall to keep from falling over. The pain was like the old days when he'd overdosed on antidepressants, but much more intense. He gritted his teeth against the pain, dug his nails into the wall that was holding him up. As he waited for the pain of his fingers to help dull the pain of his mind. Otani-san? Are you feeling okay? He heard a voice he'd heard many times before and felt a concerned hand on his shoulder. He somehow managed to ignore the pain and open his eyes. A worried face was peering down at him.
大丈夫。最近たまにあるんだ。
Overwork, perhaps? You've been so busy lately. You shouldn't push yourself so hard. The fact that it's not flagging like a name card here, I almost wonder if this is like literally words he's hearing in his head, like Kozapi style. Like, is this like impressions that are being pushed on him or not? Or is there someone speaking, but they're obscuring everything about them because the mystery is like who this person is?
相変わらず心配性だな、お前は。大丈夫だよ。さあ、入ってくれ。
Yeah, he definitely has had something implanted in his mind because he went from like, I don't know who you guys are to, oh yeah, you're such a warrior, come on in. He opened his mouth as wide as he could and moaned, trying to ease the pain, as he let his important guests inside. Now they're important. As he turned his back on his guests, he told himself it had been a long time since he'd seen them, or maybe not. It couldn't have been more than 2 months since they'd last met. It only felt longer because he wanted to see them so badly. God, that feels like that screams artificial, doesn't it?
そうだ。せっかく来てもらったのにすまん。生放送中なんだよ。
While he was out, he decided he would cut some cheese for himself and his guests. Oh, don't worry about us.
いや、お前ら相手にそういうわけにもいかないだろう。ん?
What's wrong?
いや、なんでもない。
The blade wasn't cutting into the cheese. Oh no. I really wish I could have kept my first reaction to this scene. That's strange, he told himself, and he pushed it down with more force. But I knew immediately, I was like, oh no, that's totally gonna be his finger, isn't it? He cut into the surface and made an unpleasant sound he'd never heard before, but no matter how hard he pushed, it wouldn't go any further. Confused, he yanked the knife back and forth like a saw, but only cut it slightly deeper. It was as if there's something hard inside the cheese. And even though he'd only just taken it out the fridge, it was slightly warm. Irritated, he slammed the handle of the knife against the cheese. But all it did was bash it in a little. He couldn't cut through it. I'll help you. Oh, of course you will. His guests must have heard the sound because they rushed over. They had another knife. When did they get that out? There's a trick to cutting it. They put the knife up against the cheese and began to move it with a practiced hand. Sounds like your work is going well. They smiled at Otani, their voice slightly low. Otani realized they were trying to keep their voices from being picked up by the streaming microphone and lowered his voice as well. He grinned and nodded. Yeah, I wonder if they don't want to leave. Like I'm guessing that whoever this person is whispering because they don't want to be heard on the stream. But if that's the case, that means that these are lines that are being physically delivered. It's not just in the mind. I mean, it still could be technically, but why would you want to whisper thoughts unless you really didn't want it to be heard because it was audible? His guest had introduced him to the firm that handled advertising space for popular websites, which had been giving him regular work. Oh. If that's true, and it's not a fake, a delusion planted in his mind, then whatever this firm is, I wonder if they picked up the bones of Norose and their research, and maybe they're repurposing it for their own means. Interesting. His reputation had quietly spread throughout the small web advertising industry, and as soon as he was getting more and more offers.
流行を予想することが肝なこの仕事は天職だよ。出来レースみたいなもんだ。
Then why do these streams?
一言では言いづらいな。強いて言えば、自分がどこまでいけるか試したい、みたいな感じなんだけど。
That's right. His power wasn't meant to be wasted on jobs that anyone could do.
誰も経験したことないから、誰かに聞くってわけにいかないだろ。だから自分でやれるだけやってみたいっつうか。ってかっこよすぎか、これは。
No, it's wonderful, I think. And done. After he smacked it a few times, the cheese was a little funny looking, but the even slices were lined up neatly on the plate. Oh.
悪いな、働かせて。
It's nothing. Go on. I'll wait until your stream's finished.
ああ、冷蔵庫の中、適当に見繕ってくれていいから。ああ、静かにな。
Otani took the cheese back to his seat and saw a flood of comments reading, "He's late," and "Did he log off?" What should have been only 3 minutes had turned into more than 15. Otani put a bite of the cheese in his mouth and began to chew loudly.
申し訳ない。この安売りセールしていたチーズがありえないくらい硬くて。
Oh man. He apologized to the camera, remembering to keep up the act of being poor and starving. As he hoped, the comments started to come in. What is this, the plot of some new movie? Reported broadcast will end soon. Nicki Minaj is always like this, right? Shakes head. Ah, you traded to Hollywood, I can tell. This makes me sick. What happened? I'm very worried. Otani's face took on a confused expression. The comments were strange. He thought there might be something on the camera, but he turned around and only saw his fake poor room. Yeah, this is just a live streaming. I also, I guess, one thing to think about though is I keep calling it Twitch because that's just what I can most relate to, but I feel like Japan has a lot of its own internalized internet stuff. They have I know they have another version of a YouTube type site where you upload videos, but it's almost exclusively Japan. And I think they probably must have a live streaming equivalent. So I don't know if this is meant to reflect the broader platforms like YouTube and Twitch, or if it's meant to be a more internalized one. But still.
どうしました?
He spoke into the camera, but the comments still didn't make any sense, and they were coming in faster. Maybe there was a problem with the camera. He reached his right hand out toward it. In an instant, his headache was back. It was the same pain as before. No, worse. He closed his eye and jerked forward, banging his head against the desk. But the pain in his head was so bad he didn't even feel it. He tried to hold his head in his hands, but for some reason his right hand wouldn't move. So instead, he pushed on the other hand up to his temple. It felt squishy. The vein was incredibly swollen and it felt like rubber. Each time he felt blood pulse through it, there was an unpleasant sensation in his fingers. He stamped his feet against the floor, hoping to find some small escape from the pain. It didn't even get slightly better. It was then he realized he was crying. He could feel the tears coming from his eyes. The pain was moving there now, too. Unable to bear it, he opened his eyes. Oh my gosh. He gasped. Remember, yeah, subscribing to this dude's channel. Do you guys think this is cool? You're sick. Can you tell what's happening? What a shoot show. You know, I feel bad, but what the heck? And like, he's like crying blood and stuff coming out of his mouth. Okay. So whatever this is, it feels way more invasive than what we saw in the first game. Like, granted, the first game could make people do really wacky stuff, like the new gen killings and stuff. This already feels a lot like the finger licking one, right? But at the same time, those people, I don't feel like they exhibited this level of like they weren't bleeding from the eyes and like the headaches and stuff. So it feels like it's the same but different. Like something's changed. Like at least with the technology. He gasped. The whole scene appeared like in front of him like some kind of awful magic trick. He suddenly heard the sound of something wet dripping onto the floor. His eyes reflexively turned toward it. His right arm was gone at the elbow, and the stump was gushing blood. Can you imagine living in a world where all your senses and perceptions just be overwritten like that? Cause that's the other thing too, is like, how does that even work? Cause like, about the first game, I'm just realizing something. Okay, they make a whole point in talking about how like, one of the reasons why you can't heal wounds with delusions is because the pain of them constantly disrupts the attempt to believe that believe your delusion is real. But how come people can then be deluded into doing stuff like this without the pain waking them back up? Like that, it almost feels like that's what's kind of happening here. Is he tried to use his arm that's now gone, and that somehow is like snapping him out of the delusion. But how did it get to the point where he was able to like meticulously have his arm chopped off and not get woken up to the reality of the situation? Unless the pain isn't really that much of a factor. It just seems odd that they established that as a rule. Like, are they changing that, or are these delusions just that much more powerful? But we still saw like the new gen killings did stuff like this too. It's just weird.
Huh?
Otani didn't understand what was happening to him. What was going on? He just got the check at the door. On the knock at the door. Like, anytime his mind starts grasping for the delusion, the pain comes. Like, when he starts trying to, like, see the reality, the pain screamed within him. Any sense of pain in what remained of his right arm was overcome by the pain in his head. He felt nothing from his arm at all, though he saw blood dripping to the floor. What the hell's going on? He blinked and forced his aching eyes to function as he looked around the room. On top of his desk, he found the rest of his arm. It was sitting on a plate. At first, it looked like it was still in one piece, but it wasn't. They aren't showing us, unfortunately. Well, maybe fortunately. It was neatly sliced into uniform pieces. Each piece was about a centimeter wide, with the slices moved neatly toward his fingers. They sat upon the plate in, roughly, his arm's original shape. Miraculously, he saw there was no blood on the tips of his index finger. He still didn't understand that it was really his own arm. But sheer disgust at what he saw caused him to leap out of his chair. What was this? What kind of prank was this? Ugh. The contents of his stomach flooded into his mouth and he vomited. The pink fluid splashed against the desk. He saw something solid in the middle of it. It was a thumb. It was covered in bite marks, saliva, and stomach acid, but horribly, he remembered it. What? When did he put that into his mouth? In his pain-filled mind, he suddenly heard the sound that he'd never heard before. There we go. They've got to have some kind of like, you know, Noah machine. Each time he heard the sound, the pain in his head got worse. He turned toward the camera, hoping for an answer to what was happening. But of course, there was none to be found. The screen was filled with the comments, but his eyes were too filled with tears for him to read them. Oh my gosh. And they're the same comments too. Let's calm down, guys. Murmur, murmur, you're sick. As the whole world turned red, Otani didn't even realize his lips were turning purple. His lips had turned purple from lack of oxygen, but were stained red with blood from his severed thumb, which he had chewed himself. Oh, okay. They're turning purple from lack of oxygen probably because he's bleeding out. That's what's happening. As he tried to fight the pain, he began to fall unconscious and tears fell from his eyes. The tears seemed pink to him. Otani was weeping blood. God, his brain must literally be baking. Because, like, I feel like, again, we never saw any of the new gen killers that exhibit these types of symptoms. He died still facing the camera. His guests watched the chain of events unfold, then silently headed for the door. Just before they left the room. Goodbye. They said as if nothing at all was wrong and shut the door. It was a group of them too. Why? What are they doing? Go to hell. Why is this a bit saucier than usual? I'm bored. Absolutely disgusting. Ugh. What a way to start, huh? September 19th, 2015, Friday night. Okay, so the first one was September 9th, right? And so this is like 10 days later? Takanyanagi. I'm gonna suffer for that one. Takayanagi Momone. Gosh darn that name. So many vowels. Takayanagi Momone had finished her concert. Like always, she stayed behind to help put away the instruments. She even helped clean up the audience seats, even though that was a concert hall's job. Only after all that was done could she take a break. There wasn't much time left before her solo street concert, but she still had to help anyway. She'd always been like that. Even if it wasn't her responsibility, she couldn't help but get involved. I have to say, honestly, I vibe so hard with this because that's definitely me as well. I feel like for some reason, I always feel this need to go out of my way to help other people, or at least like be helpful to other people. And it's funny because like, I know it's definitely not necessary. And a lot of people say like, oh, that means you're really nice, or like, that's a really good thing to do. And it's true, but I don't feel like I do it because I'm necessarily like, oh, like I want to be helpful. It's almost like I have a need to, like I have to make myself useful. I need to make sure that I'm bringing something to this community or this group or this person, because I don't know, maybe horrible things will happen, or maybe they'll hate me or something. It's like something inside me that's definitely not like, I would say it's probably not healthy. It's good. It's not like the worst thing to do, but it's also like, I've learned that to recognize the fact that like, it's more of an impulse for me. And that means it feels like it's probably hollower than it comes across, because I feel like it's something I just have to do. Like, it's like, I feel like bad things might happen, or like people will, I don't know. It's hard to explain. But I really get this. Like, it feels very reminiscent of stuff I feel as well. It was like middle school, where one of her friends who wasn't good at studying asked her for test notes. Or in high school, when a girl she knew asked her how to make Valentine's chocolate for a boy she really liked. She'd stayed up so many nights that her own test grades were worse than her friends, and she didn't even have anyone to give chocolates to on Valentine's Day. In the end, it was the other person's responsibility, not hers. But that's sad. Takayanagi Momone was at heart scared of not doing everything she could, even if everything wasn't her responsibility. That's exactly it. Like, you feel like you're scared to not do everything you can because you feel like something's gonna go wrong. You might mess things up. Something bad will happen. The concert today was another big success. Sure, it was a tiny room that could only fit 150 people or so, standing room only, but tickets were 3,000 yen, like $30. High for a band with an amateur vocalist like her, and they still sold out instantly. It was bizarre how excited the crowd was. She'd heard sobs during the ballad, and during one of the high-tempo songs, the audience had stood all up all the way to the back row. I like the UI, by the way. Like, I like the names appearing in this corner here, like the way they do it. Like, it's very stylish. She held a chill and hugged herself tightly. It's not that her band wasn't popular. They started out in Nico Neon's Saying It category and had to keep going by doing covers of popular anime songs. So again, like, they started on the streaming service. So, oh my gosh. Is the streaming service, Nico Neon, are they gonna be the ones that, like, are they the new company that picked up the device? Maybe that, because like so far these two people have that in common. It helped that her face, which had earned her the nickname Scarecrow in school, ouch, could look really good when she wore makeup. And if all of them put on ridiculous costumes and acted like idiots, some people would enjoy that. Videos of their concerts and performances pulled a decent number of views online. But Takayanagi noticed. The vast majority of people looking at the videos were people who'd come to her concerts. People who'd experienced that insane intensity and were going back to the videos to try and feel it again. And Takayanagi knew they probably wouldn't feel even 1% of it. So she's got like the intensity of something. Its ticket prices and audience sizes were one thing, but the strangest thing to her was their eyes. Their eyes pierced right through her, unblinking. They were like pets, totally dependent on their master. Dang. The meaning of the lyrics began to take over their lives, and they never even questioned it. Okay, so maybe, like, if she's a gigalomaniac too, maybe this is like a power she has. When she first realized it was happening, she tried to quit the band. Even then, even if she couldn't, she at least wanted to stop doing the live shows where people heard her directly. But the others around her wouldn't let that happen. Your voice is amazing, they would tell her. They forced her to keep singing even though the concerts began to terrify her. I feel like that's odd to say though. It's like she feels like they're forcing her, but like, can they actually force her? Like, is she being compulsed to do so, or is it just her own neurosis that makes her feel like, I don't want to disappoint people? Because that's very real too. Like, I hate that feeling like you're going to disappoint people, whether by your actions, your inactions, or just by like not being able to make everyone happy. It's like torture to know that somebody out there is upset because of something you did. That's hard. It's really hard. Takayanagi tried to get out of it, but in the end she kept giving in. She owed her fellow band members for getting a plain dull girl like her into music. And for a while, part of her managed to have fun. But in the end, Takayanagi lacked the tiny bit of courage needed to break out of the cycle. She forced herself to get up and head toward the street concert when she really didn't want to. She'd received an email. She read it slowly. She almost dropped her smartphone. She read it again and again, trying to control her shaking hands. If it was nothing special, just a simple message about one of her songs she'd made. Good song, keep it up. Again, it's going with this white screen with the text on it. My current running theory is that this might be another signal for us, the player, that some kind of like manipulation or suggestion is being like sent, because like in the last game it was almost exclusively the weird wibbly sound in the background of one of those like Noah machines. But I'm wondering if this is something else, like if it maybe instead of like a machine that's making sound, it's like, well, I guess the sound was part of it too though, because the last guy definitely heard a sound, but maybe this one can also work through screens and like flashing lights. Because I could see flashing lights like or images being flickered on a screen that are so like that your brain can't like consciously catch it, but like subconsciously you do. Maybe they're using that kind of tactic in order to help bring about these delusions or activate the blind spots. Because so far the fact that screens are involved with both these people is making me wonder if like that's what this Noah device is going to do. It's going to leap into cyberspace. Takayanagi tried to stop the tears but couldn't. The band would get too many messages like this to count, especially after concerts. She knew it was rude. To be honest, she was sick of them. But this email address wasn't for her band. It was one for her site where she had anonymously uploaded original songs. In other words, whoever sent this message hadn't come to her concerts. They'd never heard her voice live or felt its strange power. So yeah, it is a power of hers. So she's like a siren, like her singing like captivates people. But they still said they liked her song.
マジですか?
Wiping away tears that wouldn't stop, she quickly wrote a response. That makes me really happy, thank you. Even after she sent it, she kept crying for a while. She hadn't cried this much since the earthquake. And then she stood up.
こんなもん!
She took her costume for the day's concert out of her bag, balled them up, and threw them in the trash. It was a white caped outfit worn by some angel character in some anime. Certain fans really loved it, but she didn't care about it at all. She took a wet towel off a nearby table and violently wiped away her makeup.
こけしで上等だっての!
Aww. She never was wearing another cape or putting on makeup to look like an anime character again. Never, she said aloud. She realized she was more excited than she'd ever been before. Then she started to realize what she wanted to do.
いっそのこと渋谷を離れるってのもありか。どうせいろいろゴタゴタしちゃうんだろうし。
Huh. She leaves Shibuya is like, she's talking, I get the impression like she's talking like she's a student, but maybe she's older because like being able to just leave the city, unless she has family to go to, would be pretty like crazy for just like a high school kid to do. What would happen if she said she was going to quit the band? It caused trouble for a lot of people, definitely. Her band was scheduled to play in the Restoration Festival. I'm guessing that has something to do with Shibuya stuff, right? But even so, she never wanted to sing at another concert.
いつもストリートライブをやってる道は常連さんと勝ち合っちゃまずいから避けて。大丈夫か、この顔だし。
She really talks down her face like hard. She laughed and kissed her smartphone.
やばい。楽しい。
She couldn't wait to get home and start fiddling with her music. Over the web, she could really share her music with others. As long as they weren't hearing her voice live, it would be fine. If she just played a recording from a speaker, for example.
小型のスピーカーなら家にもあったな。
That's right. She'd leave Shibuya, and when she had a few more songs, she could record them and play them at the street concert. That speaker was small enough she could fit it under her clothes to fool people. It would be rude to do the same song every time, so each time she'd do a re-record it at home. So she like doesn't want to manipulate people. Oh no, the knocking. Oh, and the headache. There was a knock at the door. One of the staffers, maybe. It's interesting. So the knock. What? Because the knock tied to it too. But like, why would the knock be consistent between these? Between like whatever this is.
あ、もう出ますから。
She smiled and answered them. Now that she'd thrown away her clothes, her bag was lighter than it had ever been. Than she'd ever imagined it could be. That lightness made her think about the future. She was happy. Yeah, something about that.
Hi.
Maybe it's just a tie like who is, but it also might have something to do with like the whole delusions as a whole. Maybe, I don't know. Takayanagi happily danced toward the door, completely ignorant of what was on the other side. What's gonna be there? September 19th, 2015, Friday night. So it's the same night. Shortly after she finished, she was walking through Shibuya. She had a limp and dragged one leg behind her as if it was injured. Her bangs were unnaturally long, most of her face was covered by them. She wore a dark-colored dress that seemed to melt into the night, and above it, a bright red cardigan. Her chest, arms, and legs were almost completely covered. Despite the fact that the night was still warm, she wore gloves, as if it were just a sin to show any skin at all.
あ、ごめんなさい。
She ran into a couple coming out of a hotel and staggered slightly. Oh, look at that. So, this is supposedly her, but the thing is, like, I don't know. Is this the girl we were just hearing about? Like, who was, like, singing and, like, doing siren songs? Because the same night, But is it the same or not? That was really weird. Okay. Like I said, oh, battery running low. I think, okay, that's my keyboard. My keyboard's wireless, and so like it's battery ran low. That's what the icon that popped up was. Silly that I have to take care of this live, but I'll just do it while I'm chatting. So before she didn't, but she didn't even look at the people she ran into. She looked down and disappeared into the streets of Shibuya. Oh, the camera.
決めな。
ねえ、今の人の顔見た？
Oh, no.
んだよ。
気持ち悪い。何あれ？何？あの目。
So I think it feels like it is the same person, but like, what happened? Chapter 1, Digital Native. The right sider chases the cases. Quick save. Oh, look at that. It's like a little like hut thing. Here we are. Let's say that, for example, you asked a kid in middle school, do you know what Schrodinger's cat is? Okay. Most would say yes, or I've heard of it. Well, start by eliminating the DQNs who say they've never heard of it. The DQNs, right? I think it actually said in here, it identified them a bit better. Yeah. DQN, pronounced Dyokyun. Used to refer to people who are stupid, antisocial, or delinquents. Next you ask, well, what is it? Next we eliminate those poor fools who say, it's something about a cat in a box, right? Or, there's this cat, but you don't know if it's alive or dead, right? Or maybe they say, there's a cat in a box, and next to it there's a device that may or may not give off poison gas. You don't know if the cat's alive or dead till you open the box. Everybody knows that. We can eliminate those show-offs as well. Anybody from these groups is a wrong sider. Again, it's a private thing he references. Wrong sider. Someone on the wrong side of the digital information divide. Originally, the term referred to those who, for various reasons, found it difficult to make use of information communication technology such as the internet. However, in recent years, it's also come to refer to people who can't properly use the information they do have, or who are simply ignorant. The term is often used on internet message boards and other places online in order to insult people who have poor, misguided reasoning or are using information that's considered outdated. Miyashiro uses the term in the latter sense of the word, not its original meaning. And I think Miyashiro is the main character, or like this character at least, right? I don't know. So wrong sider. The right answer would be to describe the experiment and then say, it was thought experiment proposed by Schrödinger to criticize the quantum mechanical theory that stated that the state collapse only occurs after human observation. And so it's funny because like I can clarify this, and here's the thing that I want to say about that. What's funny is that there's two sides to it. First of all, the idea is about how when people were trying to formulate or trying to mathematically make models and predict the movements of things on the quantum level, so at like the scale of atoms and smaller, they had their formulas were coming out where they could really only factor for one piece of information at a time. They either could find out where a particle was in space or how fast it was traveling, but they couldn't figure out both. Like the formulas wouldn't work reversibly. In real life, that would just qualify the formula as being nonsense, because it's like, well, why can't you just relate that? But they were arguing at the quantum stuff to say, hey, like things at this realm, at this scale, just don't operate off the same rules that apply to normal physics, and so it's still valid. And Schrödinger was criticizing them and saying, well, like he proposed like Schrödinger's cat to say that like, because the idea was saying that like, yeah, you put a cat in a box with a vial of poison gas that will break at a random interval. Until you open the box and look at the cat, you can consider it to be both alive and dead. But it's silly because his proposal saying is like, look, whether the cat's alive or dead is not dependent on the person who opens the box. The state of the cat's health is entirely independent of whether it's observed. And thus, trying to claim that the only way you could know if the cat was alive or dead was to observe it is silly. But unfortunately, well, for Schrodinger, his analogy, whilst being a great analogy of his point, is now used to support quantum mechanics as it is, because despite the fact that his criticism feels very valid, the quantum formula that he was debating at the time have been more and more validated as we've discovered more and more about things at the level of particles. And so the fact that those models predicted things that happened in like the CERN super collider that actually like played out the way that those formula predicted kind of gives credence to the idea that they are actually right, and Schrodinger's criticism has now become the main vehicle of people trying to understand quantum mechanics. And that's happened before. The other story about this that's really funny is about the Big Bang Theory. The name of the Big Bang Theory is really funny because it was meant to be a derisive mockery of the proposal that was made by Hubble during observations of planetary movements and stars, how they would look for red shifting or blue shifting, which determined whether something was shifting, moving closer to you or further away from you at a rapid speed. Blue shift is when something's moving towards you. Red shifting is when they're moving further away. You would expect in an average universe like of averages that about 50% of objects would be moving away from the Earth and 50% would be moving close towards the Earth. Well, it'd be more like 30-30-30, where you'd expect 30% to be moving rapidly away, 30% would be moving rapidly toward, and 30% moving relatively parallel, so they wouldn't actually have much of a shift in their light. It's a light's version of the Doppler effect. However, he discovered that almost everything in the galaxy was moving rapidly away from us. And it was like, well, if you work all that backwards, where you like, if you use mathematics to reverse those movements and kind of like collect the data of like where they're like because they seem to be all moving away, so where would they move toward? Well, everything moves towards a single point, and so he said, all right, that means that the universe is about, I think it's like 15 or 16 billion years old. And all things that we see of the observable universe started at a single point and then expanded outward from there, and is still expanding there from today. People were laughing him out of the room, saying that's ridiculous. How could that possibly be? But then they actually started, and so like they were mocking him, and they came up with the term the Big Bang Theory, because he was basically postulating that there was nothing, and then suddenly there was a boom, and everything was there. But the problem is that he was then validated because they found evidence of the things that you would expect to see if that had actually played out, like cosmic background radiation, the fact that things are all moving away from you in every direction, and it's very rare to find things that are actually blue shifting toward the planet. So, in a way, Schrodinger's cat and the Big Bang are both scientific terms that were initially used as criticisms for scientists proposing theories to explain the universe, and they were being mocked using those terms, but now they've been corroborated and being found to be actually on the right track of things, and so now we look very fondly and respectfully to these terms that used to be divisive, which is really funny, because like history is really interesting in that way. Sorry for that big rant, but it's fun to talk about. Anyway, observation. But barely anyone can do that. Apparently I can. And I'd imagine that I'm the only guy who's still in high school who knows that Schrodinger got the idea after exchanging letters with Einstein. Frankly, I don't think I remembered that part. I hate wrong-siders. Apparently, you do. I'd taken a break from the investigation for the two incidents that occurred recently in Shibuya and was paging through some at-channel blog aggregators for a change of pace. As always, the articles about bad idols and corporations or terrible work environments were getting tons of hits. It was hard to believe that the crash of 15, a huge news story that just happened this month, was already off the front pages. That's another one we have to look at the tips for. The crash of 15, because it's a major thing. In September 2015, the largest solar storm in recorded history struck the Earth, causing electronic failures worldwide. The massive damage from the world's infrastructure and the panic that resulted from it in some areas, particularly in North America, became known as the crash of 15. In this incident, a large hole opened in the Earth's geomagnetic field, leaving Earth defenseless against the incoming solar flare. Since no precautions were taken beforehand, the powerful electric current caused electronics and high-voltage transformers around the world to fail, shutting down the entire electrical grid temporarily. The reconstruction project in Shibuya following the Shibuya earthquake had only just finished its redesign of the city's infrastructure, and while Japan suffered relatively little damage, Shibuya in particular suffered almost none. And I was talking about how like that actually happened. That was like a real event that occurred in history where It's called a coronal mass ejection. It's where the sun belts out, like has a kind of a snap in its magnetic field, and it just erupts a bunch of basically a supercharged plasma from its mantle straight into space. It happens all the time, does it all the time, but sometimes, if you're very unlucky, the Earth is in the path of this massive ejection of highly supercharged particles. And while our magnetic field usually protects us, these things tend to overwhelm it, and it tends to hit the planet's surface. I think there's a recorded time of it happening in 1918 or something, and it hit America. It hit the Earth. At the time, electronics were not really much of a thing. There were a few things, but like the big thing that was in use at the time was the telegram. So like using wires to send messages in Morse code so you could communicate in long distances. And there were stories about how when that happened, they reported hearing really odd high-pitched ringing sounds from the wires, and that like at the stations that would do like the responding, actually some of the wires like sparked and started catching things on fire. So the fear is that a modern world being hit by one of these things would be catastrophic. It'd be a similar level as an EMP, but it would hit like a whole like half of the planet. And like the difference being like a telegram was basically a wire running a current and had very mechanical, clunky parts, right? So those were freaking out, but they were all very mechanical and very like limited. And so it was relatively, like it was very scary, I'm sure, but it didn't cause a whole lot of damage or disruption. Nowadays, with electronics like our phones that are so delicate, or computers that are so delicate with like small superconductors and really like sensitive devices, highly charged particles blasting into that is gonna fry them. Our infrastructure is almost entirely like enslaved into very delicate electronic machinery, and a coronal mass ejection that hits would cause a crash. It would destroy the infrastructure of most electronic systems, and it would basically permanently destroy a bunch of electronic devices. It would be a catastrophe, a global scale catastrophe. So the idea he's saying that this happened and most people just moved on from it after a few weeks is crazy to me. Because a lot of stuff would have to be flat out replaced. You couldn't just like repair it. The other thing that's interesting about this too is that the only real way to defend yourself against something like this, or like an artificial version of it, which is an EMP, would be to build a Faraday cage, which is where you basically create a mesh of metal or a container of metal around an object. Because when supercharged particles or like electricity strikes, it hits a conductive material and it skates across the outside of that. You may see videos of Faraday cages where you can have a person standing in a metal cage, putting their hand on the interior side of the cage and having the cage get struck by like a high-powered voltage lightning like electricity strikes. And they're perfectly fine. They don't get shocked. You would get shocked if you touch the outside of the metal, but touching the inside is safe because the exterior kind of takes the brunt of it all. And a Faraday cage is what you can protect stuff with because the exterior of the cage would collect all that charge and it wouldn't actually pass into the devices. So part of like a survival kit thing, like an emergency kit to have in your house for in case something goes bad. One of my ideas that I want to do is I want to have a backup phone and maybe like a portable hand crank radio. And I purposely put them inside a Faraday cage just in case something like this actually happened. It would be a disaster I would want to be prepared for. But again, that's just me being paranoid. I'm just saying it's a real thing. And if this happened, I don't think it would be something that would not be in the news stories because I think the internet might die. And in fact, I had a realization. I was like, oh my gosh, can you imagine today with all this money and stuff going into these massive server farms for like the power AI and stuff? If those got hit by something like this, they would be obliterated. Can you imagine how much money would be obliterated from the economy and from like businesses and their profitability and everything, just like infrastructure in general, all that RAM that's now so expensive. Can you imagine what would happen if one of these hit? It would be horrific. It would be one of the greatest disasters that's ever occurred in history. That's crazy. And they just casually moved on from it. Did the people reading the comment and commenting on these sites realize that everything they read about corporations and idols is carefully controlled? Probably true. Did they know the most bigger aggregator sites are corporations too? Definitely true. Did they realize that the comments were all manipulated to go one direction or another? Again, probably true. There's a lot of evidence to say a lot of big popular streamers and content creators actively use bots despite knowing that they're against the rules in order to keep their numbers going, or use them to kind of help ramp their hype when they first start ticking off as a creator. And it's really sad because like I know I'd never be able to or be willing to do that. I couldn't bring myself to. But it feels like maybe that's part of the magic of being successful as a content creator is you gotta work those numbers and artificially inflate them, which is gross. It's so gross. Kids our age were living in a world where all the information you could ever want was right at your fingertips. Those in the Satori generation, ignorance was the worst sin. So we'll go to tips again. Satori generation, a phrase first used in the internet in Japan in 2010. Although the exact boundaries of this generation are unspecified, often used to refer to people born in the 1990s, so millennials. Members of this generation are said not to want things they don't need, act far more logically, and avoid putting forth any unnecessary effort, hence the descriptor Satori, or enlightened. One cause of this is believed to be the internet was widely available by the time they were old enough to use it, which exposed them to information about society and the reality of the world at a far earlier point and a far more intricate level than any generation before them. And I think that's cool, but then the fact that all the subsequent generations have that much access and not more, why are they not Satori as well? Because I would argue they're clearly not. The ignorant were the self-righteous, easily manipulated, and eager to push their paper-thin worldview onto others. They were nothing but a nuisance. The worst of the lot were so-called otaku. It's kind of crazy. Like he's like, oh, those filthy otaku, right? He would hate Taku for the first game. I couldn't stand otaku. They were wrong-siders. Take the picture of the cover of this magazine. It was for Bloodtoon. And wrong thing. So I wanted to look at this because I looked at like you look at this and look at these references. Bursting with beautiful girls. Hyper period Neptuna, like Hyper Neptune. Manga Danpa, maybe Danganronpa. Kaisen collecting. What's wrong with being Chunibyo? Samurai Lord Online, like Sword Art Online. A certain scientific space gun, certain scientific railgun. To rave Rue Darkness, or to love Rue Darkness, girls in Pantsu. Kono Motogari, or Nono Motogari. Koi. Bloodtoon Animation, coming soon to theaters. Magical Animation. Honoka, new contract of the parallel world, and my little sister is a hero from another world. So the isekai genre getting steam. It's so real. It's so real, and I'm so like, it's probably not good. I can recognize all this so well. Alright, so take a picture of the cover. Bloodtoon. Any otaku who just watched it for the cute characters was a loser. There was no point in watching the show if you're going to ignore its deeper themes. I couldn't stand people who still held the old-fashioned idea that the only otaku who watch anime, but people who ignore the show's themes just watch it for cuteness were even worse. This guy is amazing. He's an elitist. He's a super otaku. He's like, he looks down on other otaku because they're not otaku enough, because they don't understand the depth and the meaning behind the shows. They're just fans of the characters. This guy's a gatekeeping otaku. It's insane. Like, it's so funny because he looks down on them so much, but he's so hooked on the same stuff. They were ignoring the implicit social criticism hidden in...
Nani?
What? I stared at the magazine in amazement. Specifically, I stared at the box that listed the next episode previews. The text said that Eren was missing.
Bakaka!
Dang it! I let my guard down because I knew this episode was written by the guy who wrote the original manga.
この原作者は原作のことが分かっていない。
This is the most insane line I've ever read. Look at this. The original author doesn't know anything about his own work. Can you imagine being such an elitist, such a absolute like ignoramus, to be able to say to yourself without as joking, the author of the show and the manga I like doesn't understand what he's writing. That you somehow are so much more enlightened about the intent and the care of the characters in the show than the people who are making it. That you somehow figured out the secret sauce more than them and criticize them for not doing a good enough job making their creation. Do you know how utterly mad that is? And it's sad because that's a real thing people actually are like. And it blows my mind that there's that this is the thing, because this guy is something else. He's not even from this planet. How could you remove Aaron from the story halfway through? Not keeping her around meant bringing all the internal drama that had been built up so far to a halt. Gosh darn it. So much for my change of pace. I knew I had work to do in the case, but I put it away because I couldn't find any link between the two crimes. Ugh, this guy. I thought for a moment, then took my magazine from its secret stash. There's an issue of an older magazine called Cool Cat Press. And then again, here we go. Magic words to make any girl fall in love with you. A comprehensive study on the guys girls dig. This is just a Cosmo magazine. Tips for surviving fall. Must see. What clothes to buy secondhand based on current trends. Oh my gosh. This is, and Cool Cat. Cool Cat's an actual like thing, which is really funny too, because like it's like a cheesy like wannabe child show on YouTube, but the creator's like super toxic. Anyway, this is like a Cosmo magazine basically. People called it a dating guide for normies, written by somebody who's never dated a girl in his life, but you'd be surprised. Would you? Because that's probably really accurate.
女性が必ず落ちる告白の言葉?
Oh my gosh, this dude. Stupid. I knew it was stupid. But when I ran an internet search for the #1 phrase, nothing came back. And that was the thing. The fact that it didn't show up on the internet meant to me it was worth something. So this guy, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about this beforehand. He's also, what's the word? I haven't heard it used in ages. A hipster. He's a hipster because he thinks that because it's not on the internet, it's worth more. Because he's so internet pilled that he feels like it's like a treasure because it's not something he can look up and find. And if he can't verify it on the internet, it must be worth more.
誠に勝手なのですが、好きになってもいいですか?
It's so cheesy. It's so cheesy.
何を?
Oh, yeah, there's the course. Yay!
何してんだ?
First character we get to truly see. I was gonna say this before. I immediately am a fan of her design. Very cute. I turned to yell at the voice.
ん?
おのえ! お前、いつ?
I hid my favorite magazine behind my back, tried to calm my racing heart. Even if we've known each other since we were kids, don't just come in here without permission. Childhood friend.
ノックしたよ。てか、何その雑誌。面白いの?
Oh my gosh.
なんでもない.
I would be super embarrassed if I got found holding a Cosmo too. I couldn't let her find out. This was bad.
どうしたんだよ。なんで制服着てるんだ。帰ったんじゃないのか。
Seneca frowned. No, she didn't frown. She's pouting. That's a completely different expression.
今日の部活で事件のこと調べてこいって言ったのタコじゃん。
Oh. Huh, that's right.
はい、これ。追加の現場周りの画像データ。
Real 16 gigabyte. Seneca took out a USB memory stick from out of her purse.
ありがとう。ついでに僕の PC に入れちゃってくれるか。
Seneca looked a little confused. I would be too. It's odd that he won't trust her to look at this magazine, but he trusts her to just have free access to his computer. Interesting.
珍しいね。自分の PC 触らせるなんて。
There you go.
別にお前はいいよ。
Aww.
ふーん。
I'm getting some strong Mayuri vibes from her. Maybe it's just that line in itself, because that's Mayuri would always love. Aww. But it's very similar. Maybe it's also her design too, a little bit. Like her face looks kind of like Mayuri with a different haircut. Nah, not really. It's just probably the style of, like, the art style more than anything else. She didn't seem to think much of it as she started to copy the data off. Okay, now's my chance. The RV was cramped, but there's a lot of space for storage. Why is he living in an RV? Like, it's like the same thing, like Taku was living in a container on the top of a building. Here, this kid's living in an RV. Like, what's with this? I pretend to make tea as I try to find room on the top shelf. Okay, there's just enough room for one more magazine. And then, I heard a pshoo pshoo sound like a small fart from behind me. Okay. I glanced back and saw that Setaka was using the mouse with one hand and fiddling with her Ghetto Froggy Ghetto strap with the other. Ghetto Froggy is back, baby! Ah. And that probably means the Church of the Light, or whatever they're called, are still active too, aren't they? This is my chance. Look at that thing. Oh, actually, it's like, looks really worn. The Ghetto Froggy Ghetto strap was a soft vinyl cell phone strap I'd won in a candy contest when I was a kid. When you pushed its belly, it was supposed to go ghetto. It turned out to be an incredibly rare prize that could fetch 100,000 yen? Whoa, at an auction. But since I was a kid and didn't know any better, I gave it to Setaka as a present. Aw, that's actually really sweet. Setaka seemed to really like it. She carried it with her ever since. Dude, like, that right there, she's gotta be at least kinda into you. Or at least she was. Maybe not anymore. But like, it's a toy that doesn't even work right. And she's held onto it this long? Yeah. Which, well, that was fine, but it was an old and faded, and when he pressed its belly, air leaked out the sides and made a weird noise. It used to go ghetto, I think, but now just made a strange whooshing sound. Ever since she was a kid, she had a habit of fiddling with it, especially when she was nervous or focused on something. In other words, she was focused on the computer. Now's my chance to hide it. It's not even like, this magazine isn't even the most embarrassing kind of magazine you'd be hiding, right? Like, it's like a tabloid, like, dating guide, cosmopolitan, like, not even like gonna have weird pictures in it. I jammed the magazine onto the shelf and moved some things so she couldn't see it.
Mountain view でいいか?
Mountain view!
いいよ、もったいないじゃん。それにすぐに帰るし。はい、終了。
So, Taku had Cola, Okabe had Dr. P, and this guy has Mountain View. There's quite a few files on the screen. And what's disturbing, like, if you look at these, they look like real pictures. Like, that's weird. That, like, these pictures look like somebody actually went to Shibuya and took photos of stuff, right? Like, are they supposed to look that realistic? Like, I swear there's, like, people, like, there's a guy, like, on a bike on one of these things. Like, that looks like a human, not like an anime character. Also, like, on his computer screen here, got computer, recycling bin, internet escape, Hachi base, I don't know what that's supposed to be. After action and photo store element, which is obviously Photoshop and After Effects, which, you know, I know a lot about. Well, a lot in quotes. Graphics shortcuts, movie shortcuts, recovered file shortcuts, Shibuya incident invest ... shortcuts.
結構取ったな。成果は?
新しい発見はなかったよ。タクは新しい共通点見つかった?
That's crazy. So, like, this guy's also Taku. That actually gets so confusing. Oh no. Wait, so if he's Taku, because his name's not like, it's Taku. It's not Takumi. Like, it's a definitely different name.
Yeah.
Takuru. Okay, it's Takuru. Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. The nickname would be the same. Weird. And also, like, Takuru, like, just think of Muv-Love. Ah, dang. I shook my head frustrated.
そっか。まあ、気長に行こう。じゃあ明日、部室で。
Look at her. She's adorable. What's she leaning on, though? Look at that pose. Just as she was about to leave, I got an idea.
Onoe!
I needed to double check my information. She was, in theory, a girl. Oh, okay, buddy. In theory, he's like, this kid's an idiot. Come on, dude.
さ、例えばなんだけど。
Isn't that also like a thing Okabe does in Steins Gate too, though? He's like, hey, wait, you're technically female, right? Like it's like a trope like with these characters. They're like the same person. Yeah.
なんていうか、お前が告白されたとしてさ。
Dang. Just gonna, looks like someone asked you out.
いや、だから例えばこう言われたらどう？誠に勝手なのですが、好きになってもいいですかって。
Okay.
さっき言ってたやつ？
No.
それはいいから。どう？
So if he's asking this, it makes you wonder, is he just wanting to have like a generally useful bit, or does he have a person he has a specific crush on? I doubt it's her, if he's willing to ask her this question, but interesting. Sedeka thought for a second, and fell asleep apparently.
年下なの？その人。
Aw, I'm just like absorbed into her face right now. Like this design is fantastic. Like the art and the way they did the hair and the face shape and like the expressions, like it's beautiful. Like I really like it. Like way better than anything we saw in Chaos Head. Is a person younger than me. I didn't even realize that's what she said. Look at this. Negative, positive. That's a bunch of fanfare. Switch between positive and negative using Z and C controls. But I can still like...
丁寧語だから。
Because they're being so polite. Okay. Ooh. There's a positive sound and a negative sound. Interesting. Okay. So it's not clicking anymore though, is it? Well, maybe I have to... It's true, come to think of it. Okay, so I probably don't want to go too far because I imagine like I could accidentally trip the end. So I gotta decide if I want to do a delusion or not. Darn it, my default is to no because I want to know what she says. But in the last game at least, it didn't really matter that much. So I don't want to have something disturbing where she probably just makes fun of him. Or do we want something positive? Alright. Alright, let's go for positive. Why was it so polite anyway?
年下なのかな。いや、そうじゃなくて、どう？
どうって、丁寧だなって思うけど。
It was polite, very formal.
告白されたことないからよくわかんない。
No one's asked her. That's crazy. I wouldn't believe that, but you always know that like they always make characters really pretty in games. Like in real life, none of us would look ever. Even if you have a character in an animated format that's based on a real person, they're never gonna look as good as they look in animation. But man, why wouldn't anyone ask you? Well, I don't know anything about her though. Maybe she's just super obnoxious, really. I doubt it, but who knows?
他には何か思わないか？こう、素敵だなと思ったりしないか？
別に相手によるんじゃない？
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like, this is the perfectly example by like the meme. Like, it's like it's like a little comic where it's like you have a guy who's like dressed in a really nice suit. Has like a very attractive features. Like clearly works out, and he's like approaches the girl in the cubicle, and he's like pointed like doing like finger guns. He says something to the lines of like. Hey, you, hey, that skirt looks really good on you. And she's like, oh, how sweet. She's like, oh, lovely. And then the panel below is like another guy in like a goofy sweater, thick glasses, heavy set, doing finger guns at her and says, hey, you look good in that sweater. And she's like, picks up her phone. She's like, hello. Not security. It's, human resources. Like that meme is like exactly right. The line like that is so cheesy. Like normal people wouldn't talk like that. The only person who would respond positive to it was somebody who already is like interested. So like, yeah, you got washboard abs, you dress really stylishly, you go up to a girl and you're already been flirting with for a while and you drop that line and she wants to reciprocate feelings, she'd probably be like, oh, that's so romantic. But if you go up to a girl who like sees you in a neutral way or even just doesn't interested at all, and you drop that line, you're just gonna come across horrifically creepy. It's like the line has no bearing on success or failure. The success or failure is determined basically already by the way the person views you as the person. Maybe if you've hit enough right notes, she could be shifted from a positive neutral to a positive point of view. But again, that's because she was already seeing you in a good way. And it flips to the other way too. Like girls get hit on guys and these kinds of lines. Like I've had girls like flirt with me and it come across really creepy. Like it's not like a sex exclusive thing, but because in most cultures, the male is the one who usually makes the first move, it often is us who takes the brunt of the problems here. Oh. Grr. What's going on here, cool cat? It would depend on the person asking the question. Of course it would. Trigger on. What is this? Wibblies?
でも告白してくれたのがタクだったら
Oh boy, the soft music.
ちょっとだけ考えちゃうかもしれない。
It was you. Oh my gosh, see? Setika's whisper so softly I could barely hear it.
え?
Huh?
今、なんて言った？
なんでも
Aw, she's so cute. Oh my gosh, why are you so close? And what was the background white for a second? No, I didn't hear that wrong. Was Cool Cat right after all? No, wait. Is Setika we're talking about here? Is that possible? Usually when you've known somebody since you were little, you're so close you don't realize when they're attracted to you. Fair. I would argue though that she's clearly been interested for a while because of the Garo frog that she still has and still like keeps close to her and still obviously means something to her. That seems like a pretty decent flag.
お前、僕のこと。
Fetch me. This is definitely a delusion.
タクはどうなの？
Oh, there's an immediate deflection.
どうって。え？
だから例えばだけど受け止めてくれるのかって話。
Oh my gosh. She was trying to hide the fact that she was blushing, but she was staring straight at me as if she waited for an answer. Was she serious? From the looks of things, she was definitely serious. Really? Setika liked me? I suddenly started to see her not as a childhood friend, but as a member of the opposite sex. Oh! Okay, this dude is pretty cringy, but the thing is, like, he's like almost endearing. This is such a great, like, difference between this Taku and that Taku. That's gonna get so confusing. But this Taku, whilst being clearly he's insufferable, he's an elitist who like is gatekeeper, and he has no clue how real people work and validates theories based on whether or not they're on the internet already. And yet he comes across way funnier than Taku ever did. Dating her might not be so bad. We both knew everything about each other. But what was I supposed to do at a time like this? Was there anything about the that in the Cool Cat Press? Oh, don't look at that. That's right. There was a hint in the January 24th, 1999 edition from the column called Everything You Wanted to Know About Seducing Your Childhood Friend But Were Afraid to Ask. What a specific name for a freaking article. It was, how would you like your childhood friend to say they loved you? Oh my gosh. I haven't seen a Cosmo in like since probably when I was in high school, but I don't think I ever like really looked at them. I just remember seeing those stupid article headlines like that. Number 3, softly in a love letter. 5 people. Like a little poll in an embarrassing text message. 17 people. Work up the courage and kiss me now. 128 people. Oh, wait a second. Wait. The article was in 1999. Were cell phones popular enough back then to make a text message be like an answer that would make sense? I don't know. But also, like, these polls would be stupid anyway, because it's just gonna be like hyper romantic people reading about fictional like situations. Like, if this actually happened, like, that's so risky. Unless you know already you're gonna get a positive result, which, I mean, granted, in this delusion he will, but in reality, that could go so wrong. Work up the courage and kiss me now.
尾上いやセリカ
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. I got closer to Seneca and softly put my hands on her shoulders. Our faces were right next to one another. Hands on shoulders feels really like intimidating, like, come here, you. But maybe she's shorter? I don't know. Seneca was beet red, but then she didn't look away from me.
タク。
僕は優しい男だから大切にしてやるから
Why are you talking like you're gonna run off at a lope or something? What are you talking? You're in school still, dude. Also, her voice, it sounds familiar. Like, it's not, they didn't just recast like Remy, did they? Because like, she sounds kind of like Remy, but then kind of not. But the way she said Taku there, just like, maybe I'm just Taku Remy pilled. I don't know.
こんな急になんてダメだよ。だって
Seneca's lips were quivering. Fetch me, dude. There's no clear sign in this situation. You're free to land there, son.
お前の唇が欲しい
I want your lips. Romantic or threatening? You decide. Oh my gosh. I was right. She must be like way short. How is she really short? Seneca closed her eyes. Oh no, Seneca, my beloved. Oh my gosh. Why did I not notice your beauty sooner when you were right next to me all this time? Yeah, I know this is extraordinarily selfish of me, but may I fall in love with you? No, I've already fallen in love with you. Oh, it's so cheesy. It is a dream though. It is but a dream.
キスして。
I think it's even got echoey.
私の唇を
Steal my lips.
奪って。
Steal my lips away. Who says these things? She whispered in a quavering voice. I couldn't control myself any longer. We just scream at her.
500円ちょうだい。
Shattered. Eh? He sounds like a seagull there. Yeah, like look. Okay, it's just like, could you just see like a seagull flying over your head? Huh? She wanted 500 again for a kiss. Just 500 again? Where she's like, wait, she wanted money? Wait, she didn't want that much money? Huh? No, wait, calm down. Get a hold of yourself. This is just a simulation. Okay. I will admit, as far as delusions go, like, I think Taku's delusions have always felt really alien, but if his delusions are basically a simulation where he, like, pretends things happen, I definitely can delude like that. Like, I have daydreams that can be really vivid, and sometimes I can, like, really lose track in myself in daydreams, so maybe I'm a borderline gigalomaniac. This isn't what would happen in real life. It couldn't. Seneca wasn't that type of girl. I mean, she's a girl. She could be a bit of a romantic, maybe. You don't know. But she wouldn't pay for kisses. I don't think so. Or take payment for kisses. I took a deep breath to calm my heart.
500円って何の話
Like $5.
これこれ忘れてた。
Oh. She showed me the paper bag she was holding.
さっきそこでゲンさんに会ったの。タクにいつものだって言って渡してくれって。特価で500円でいいって立て替えたの。
Gen-san. Okay, who that is. Your usual. I paid 500 yen for it. This sounds like a drug deal. It can't be drugs. Oh, I would hope not. But hey, also, by the way, what a friend. Like, at the drop of a hat, she, like, runs into a guy and says, hey, I have this stuff for Taku. And she's like, okay. And he's like, hey, like, he would pay me 500 yen for it. And she's like, okay, I'll take care of that. Like, most people be like, yeah, just collect it from him later. But she's like, no, I'll pay for it.
いつもの
Granted, she wants her money back, but, like, that sounds like a friend to me. Confused, I took the bag from her. Oh, is it going to be more magazines? Jensen's usual changed every time I talked to him, so I couldn't count on it. What was it today? It is! Oh, crap! My secret! That drunk old bee.
何いつものって。
Oh, of course. I like her. She's funny.
ほら、500円。
Forced 500 yen into her hands. Ignoring her persistent questions, I led her to the door.
明日、学校で。
Man, I just this. There's something about the way they've drawn her. And I wonder if all the girls are gonna be like this, or if she's just gonna have this kind of weird magic to her. But wow, like she's just like, it's interesting. Like the way they've drawn the art style, I find really appealing.
データはありがとう。助かった。
わかったよ。
Fine. Reluctantly, she left my room. So, dude, two things. Either one, she's really, really trusting and trustworthy because she didn't take the chance to peek at the package before bringing it over and genuinely is like annoyed that she can't know what it is. Or she totally peeked at it and she just wants to see your reaction, which means she's getting exactly what she wants. Reluctantly, she left my room. What a goober. This Takuru is a goober. Whew. Dang it. Sure, this is what I always bought from Gensan, but the information in the last one was no good. What the heck was a cool cat anyway? A cool cat? Is it cold because it's dead? Oh. 100 ways to secretly show your sexy side. Oh, this guy. This guy.
じゃない。
I needed to hide this too. But I had so many of them now, I was running out of room on my top shelf. He's so quick to dismiss them, but he hoards them like a freaking... like a squirrel. Oh! When I tried to force it in, a mountain of old papers came falling out. Dang it, no room, huh? Oh, what's this? It was an old scrapbook about the murders that occurred 6 years ago in Shibuya. Oh, yeah, New Generation Madness. Other rumors of message board at channel true. Fetus found in man's corpse. Disfigured corpse found in Shibuya. Let's do the blood one. Oh, there's the puzzle one, the DQN puzzle. The dead bodies found hanging on street tower. Yeah, okay. Interesting. I wonder. It's a notebook about the cases. Now, there could be other people. There were plenty of people who were interested in stuff, but there's one person in particular whom we know is who's like taking notes and had stuff in their booklet, in their folders about it. That was Yua. Could this be Yua's old notebook? That would be interesting. You know, I think we're gonna stop here. I feel like we've gone off for a while. We've had a good start. I got a little further along than I did before I realized what I'd done, so that's nice. But yeah, unfortunately, not the most natural reactions, I guess you could say. I did have some new thoughts though, doing it a second time. So like, it's definitely not the worst it could have been, but like, I'm sorry about that. That was really just a goof on my part. But now, here we are. Thank you so much for joining me today. Very interesting. Now I'm thinking about this. The two things we saw, we know the first guy died on live streaming on like the 9th, and then on the 19th of September, like the girl who was like the siren singer goes missing or something. I don't know. Or maybe she like something terrible happened to her or something. We don't know yet. But all we know is that something happened, and those are going to be the start of a new gen serial murders, I'm guessing. Or new generation madness, the new generational madness. So that'll be interesting. I like the UI. The UI changes are very pleasant on the eyes. I think it's very interesting and stylistic. The character design, as far as like, oh gosh, now I can't remember her name. I'll have to remember it in the future. But she, like, her design was very well done, very captivating, very interesting. I'm very curious to see the other characters and the art style as it continues forward. Feels very good. Yeah, I'm very interested. I'm very excited too. Actually, I'm already digging it. I'm enjoying this one a lot more than Chaos Head, simply because this Taku is much more tolerable so far. Like, I think he's gonna still be insufferable in his own way, but so far he's mostly amusing, which is great. So yeah, this is gonna be fun. I can't wait to see more. So hopefully you'll join me next week. Again, if you haven't read this before, I'd recommend you go buy it on your own, read ahead of me, kind of follow along or join me at that kind of pace with me, and like, let me hear your thoughts, or we could theorize together a little bit. You can find a link for it in the description if you want to go straight to the Steam page, but it's not like it's hard to find. And if you have read this before, looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Obviously, keep your spoilers away. Just want to make sure that I get as good of natural reactions as I can to the whole thing. Hopefully, I don't screw myself over in that regard anymore. But yeah, we'll have a lot to talk about. So thank you so much for coming today. Thank you so much to the patrons and members for being amazing. You're wonderful. I don't deserve you. I hope that I make content that keeps you wanting to support me, because that will help me know I'm doing a good job. Thank you to those of you who have been part of the channel. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Hopefully you enjoy this series, and hopefully we have more fun adventures to share together. And yeah, I am excited to see what the new year holds. So hopefully you have a good start to your year, and I'm looking forward to talking to you all in the future. So until next video or watching me, I hope to see me in next. I'll see you there.